Hi, my name is Andrea Buckley, and I'm a licensed mental health therapist in the state of Michigan. And welcome to the Connection Diaries. I am so happy that you are here. We are going to do part two of a deep dive into some self reflection questions. We're talking about everything relationship to self. This month is the month of February. And so we're thinking about this concept of love and the people in our lives that we love, and we're thinking about intimacy. We're redefining what love actually looks like. And I told you all in the last video that this month has been very challenging in so many different ways. And so I needed to take like a 2 week hiatus. And I did that, but I'm back and I'm going to continue to post videos because I like doing this. It's so much fun to me to create content and to connect with you all in this way, in a way that's a little bit more intimate and a little bit more personal. And so this is a part two of me basically diving into my own relationship with myself by way of reflection questions. And I've been using different card decks to do that. So if you go back to the other video, you will see the card deck that I used then. But for this video, I'm going to be using this card deck, and it's called Conversations with Your Inner Self. Discover the unseen within, explore the unconscious. And it says your shadow is your teacher. And I like this one because this one's a little bit more juicy, a little bit deeper, right, than the one that I used and the other one. Not that those questions weren't deep, but I like to, push the envelope a little bit. If you work with me, you know that I'm not really about small talk or surface level talk. I like to kind of get to the root of things. And yeah, I think that's where a lot of healing is done. And so sometimes, again, because of the fast pacedness of life, we don't give ourselves space to really dig deep, to really ask ourselves the tough questions, to really practice radical honesty with ourselves, which makes it very challenging to be radically honest with other people. And so this month, we're thinking about love and how we show up in love with ourselves, but also with other people. But I want to always bring it back home to, what does love look like for you? How are you loving yourself? How are you practicing self intimacy? How are you connecting with yourself? Do you feel held in your relationship with yourself? So I'm just going to answer some questions so you'll get to know me a little bit, but you'll also get to see these questions be posted at the bottom of this video so that you can ask yourself the same questions. Because, hey, what is a Dre Inspires video without a journaling prompt? All right, so this deck is pretty cool because it has two parts. It says part one, identifying, and part two, integrating. So I'm going to do a couple of the part one questions, and then I'll do a couple of the part two questions, and we'll go from there. So I'm just shuffling, and we'll see what card comes up. All right, let's just start from here. So the first question is about guilt. Think about a time when you felt guilt. What was happening? That's a deep question. Guilt, the feeling of guilt. I would say for me, I resonate mostly with shame, and shame and guilt are different. Guilt is like I did something bad. Shame is that I'm a bad person, and for a long time, it was hard for me to distinguish the two. Like I felt like when I felt guilt, the reason it was so hard to carry that emotion was because I also felt shame, which was more so about my identity. But the last time that I felt guilt, I don't know what was happening. Mm, Maybe I felt guilt. Maybe why I took some time not to post videos, that made me feel a little bit guilty because I made a commitment to myself to post once a week, which is not too much. I have a lot to say. It's not hard for me to come up with content, but I think I felt a little bit guilty because I'm like, that was my goal for this year, and I took 2 videos off. And so I will use that as an example. Anytime I set a goal for myself, especially if it's a goal that I feel like it's realistic, it's not too asking for too much, and I don't accomplish it, it makes me feel a little bit guilty. So I'll say that. That was a good one. All right, let's see what's next. This one says inner child. In what ways is your inner child affecting your life right now? I would say that my inner child is begging me to rest, to be still, to play, to do all of the fun, girly things that I used to do when I was a kid, like crafting, like creating, anything that just allows me to get lost in the moment. And so that's what my inner child wants. My inner child is like, hey girl, like your only purpose is not to hold space for other people and to do for other people, my inner child is saying like, I need you to take care of me too. And we want to do things that might not always affect the bottom line, and that's okay. So yeah, my inner child wants to like play and rebel, I feel like right now. But she also wants to feel held and nourished and reassured as always. But I think what's most pressing for me right now is just this sense of like, let's go and play, let's go outside, let's build a fort. So that's what's coming up for me. All right, let's do um, one more question from here. Ooh, this one's kind of hard. I almost skipped this one, but I'm just gonna do it. So this one's about jealousy. And it says, who are you jealous of? What desires lie behind your jealousy? And how often do you feel jealousy? Alrighty. So I'll start with the last one and go up. So for me, how often do I feel jealousy? I don't feel like jealousy comes up that frequently, but there's a couple of sore spots where it comes up. And I think that's the case for a lot of us, where there may be something in our lives that we desire or something in our lives that's like hard to accept. So when we see other people have that desire or being in a space of acceptance around maybe not having a desire, I think jealousy is a natural emotion that rises. So for me, I would say maybe I'm jealous of people who are like super into their entrepreneur journey and they feel like they have it all together and they're able to maybe hit the metrics that they want to hit at this point in their life. I would say that. So that what lies behind that desire is just stability and security and feeling competent in this area of my life that is very, new and scary and uncomfortable. What else? Who else am I jealous of? I tend to also be jealous. I think that's my main thing. And it's typically people who are like almost twice my age or 10 years older than me who've had way more experience. And I'm expecting myself to show up like them. And that's just not how that's going to work. And so I feel like I experience that a lot when it comes to me being an entrepreneur, when it comes to me creating content, when it comes to me curating spaces for other people to kind of come and build community. That's probably my biggest source for it. Um, yeah. Wow, that was a hard one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Um, I'll say that, and I'll just leave it there. But that's definitely another question to reflect on. So we did 3 from the part 1 deck, which is identifying, and now I'm going to pick 3 from the integrating deck. And the cool thing is, you will also be answering these questions too, if you take the time to answer them at the end of this video. And you can also purchase this deck. There's so many different decks that will allow you to go deeper in your relationship with yourself. And I have a lot of them. There's some decks behind me. Those are more decks for folks to be able to connect with each other, but you can use those decks to connect deeper with yourself too. Because this work is intentional. If I'm not checking in with myself, then typically I just won't do it. And that relationship with myself is put on the back burner. But let's do 3 of the integrating questions. All right. So change. What are 5 ways you have changed in the past 10 years? Are these mainly positive or negative? 10 years. Okay, I'm thinking about where I am. I would say my confidence has changed a lot. My self esteem has changed a lot. And I think the reason for that is just redefining what it means to be worthy, redefining what it means to hold space for my emotions, redefining what it means to be healing, this idea of progress versus perfection. Yeah, that's a big change. I also changed in terms of like how I view God, how I view the divine, how I view my relationship with God and spirituality. That has shifted a lot. Um, I think that a lot of times we try to put God in a box, and I don't subscribe to a lot of those narratives anymore. And I really think that I feel the closest to God when I also feel the closest to myself. And so that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, my view of God has changed a lot in the last 10 years. And I guess the last thing I'll say is my definition of love has changed a lot. And I talked a little bit about this in the last video. But yeah, love is such a big word, and so many people have different definitions. But I think for me, now my definition of love is more rooted in pleasure versus suffering. And that's something that has been a big shift for me. Oh, one more thing I would say. My worth is not defined by my ability to produce or to work. Like my life is not centered around my work. My life is centered around my joy, my pleasure, and my wellness and my healing. That's the biggest thing, not feeling like I have to hustle and grind all the time and that, you know, I have to be making a difference and I have to always be pursuing this huge purpose. No, like I love the mundaneness of life. I love the day to day, the routine, the most important thing to me right now is my relationships, my community, being around people I love, and then showing up for myself in love. That's my number one priority. And that was not the case 10 years ago. So that's that. I'm going to do two more. Ooh, this one's deep. It says, on your deathbed. Wow. Imagine you are on your deathbed while lying in bed. Your parents walk in. What are the last things you say to them? Hmm. Yeah, honestly, instantly the thing that came to my mind is this idea of like you did your best, like you did your best job. And I think that statement came from a lot of healing, a lot of seeing my parents as humans who have also healed and are healing, who aren't these like perfect beings. But that's the first thing that came up. Like, you did your best. Thank you for birthing me. Thank you for allowing me to have a life, so I wouldn't be here without them, despite any, mistakes or like tension at all that has come up throughout the years. Um, and it would be sad that I would be dying before them if that was the case. But I would just say, like, like, go love and be healed. Be love and be receptive to love, and don't be afraid to heal and to focus on your relationship to yourself, and to love yourself with a radical love, a love that is honest, a love that is pure, a love that has the power to transform your life and the life that you're connected to. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, because I think that a lot of times parents are taught to really be there for everybody else and not themselves, and not realize that when you're not there for yourself, it really shows up your ability to be there for the people you love, such as like your kids. So heal, 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 love, love, love. That would be my theme. All right, I'm gonna pick one from the bottom, see if it's different. mm, um, I'm gonna do a different one because I don't really get that one right now. How about? Okay, I'm gonna shuffle a little bit. Okay, cool. How about protection? In what ways has your shadow self protected you? So, if you're not familiar with the concept of shadow self, that's really just the parts of yourselves that is more so in your subconscious, the parts that maybe aren't as shiny, the parts that you wouldn't put on Facebook, and the parts that, are more subconscious. Like, if you think about iceberg, you think about what's on the surface versus what's beneath. But what's beneath is your shadow self. So, for me, what ways have my shadow self protected me? I would say it's kept me safe. At least it's thought it was keeping me safe. It kept me safe. I would say that. Um, my shadow self is trying its best to keep me from failure, to keep me from looking stupid, from looking crazy, from being embarrassed. It's trying its best to keep me from experiencing insecurity, whether that be financial insecurity or insecurity in myself, right? If I never try and I don't fail, I don't have to sit with that disappointment or that self doubt, you know? It's trying to save me from risk. It's trying to save me from heartbreak. It's trying to save me from just my worst fears. And if I could had a follow up to that question, I would say, what does your shadow self need to hear in this moment? And for me, I would say my shadow self needs to hear that we are safe, that we are held, that we are loved, no matter what happens, no matter what is to come, that everything will work itself out the way that it's supposed to work itself out. And that as much as I want to control everything, there's sometimes I have to relinquish control and just allow things to be. And so that is what my shadow self needs to hear. But why it doesn't hear that at times, that's a conversation for another day. But thank you so much for tuning in and just listening to me practice what self-intimacy looks like, what, just basically connecting with yourself could look like as you are in this love month. I hope that you remain connected to yourself. I hope you comment, like, and subscribe, share this video with others. And don't just watch me. I want you to also answer the questions as well. And I'm going to do one more video in February. Then we're going to do a brand new series starting fresh in March. I hope that here in winter, we can start to see more of the sun and less of the snow and the cold, but we will see. We'll hang in there regardless. So always remember that you are loved, you are enough, and stay inspired. And I'll see you next time.